It's good to be back with Audio Out Sessions here. The man to my right is our guest today, and it's somebody that I've known for a long time, been on many musical adventures. Mr. Ian Kidd, it's good to have you in the studio, man. Thanks for coming by.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
And
Thanks, Ian. Yeah, thank you.
I'm stoked to hear some of the songs you've been writing recently, because you've been in Virginia for
About 4 years or so now.
For 4 years. And before that, you were in California.
Mm-hmm.
And before that, you were in Nevada.
Mm-hmm.
And before that, you were in Virginia again.
Before that, I was in Arizona, and then
Okay.
before that, I was in Virginia.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, pretty much you moved away from Illinois in like 2008
Yeah,
and have just been like living all over the country doing your thing,
pretty much.
which is, that's fun. Some adventures, right?
Yeah.
But like, just to set the stage a little bit, because, other people don't know your story, like I've been lucky enough to learn about. You kind of grew up on punk rock,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Attaboy.
Yeah.
So do you want to like just talk about that at all?
Elaborate on it? Yeah, absolutely. Well, my dad, he was kind of one of the original like OG punk rockers of the Illinois Valley. He moved out to California when he was like a teenager and kind of brought San Franciscan hardcore back to this area. And so, when I was, I was born when my dad was like 17 years old. So, he was still a pretty young guy and everything when I was a toddler. So by the time I was 2 years old, I'm running around singing Dead Kennedy lyrics and stuff like that, and scaring the Jesus out of my grandmother, but in the process, but it was really cool, I guess. I mean, my dad was such a like a pop culture and rock and roll, and especially punk rock and metal music, like historian and aficionado, that like I was like submerged in that kind of counterculture movement with rock and roll and just aggressive music in general.
Nice, man.
Very cool.
And so, that kind of, fueled the fire to
Yeah,
lead into
absolutely.
everything else.
So yeah, the band I was in high school, one day we needed a bass player, and our friend Lenny is like, "Hey, we got to go find Ian." So we like go around to all these different places, driving around in Lenny's car, and eventually find Ian, and he's like wearing a Germs shirt. I have no idea what Germs are a band. Okay, punk, right on 'em. And then we start jamming with Ian, and he's like playing all this slap bass stuff, just like kind of a wild man on the bass guitar. And actually, when we were talking the other night, Ian, you told me about how you kind of delved into the bass, like some like more advanced like bass techniques, right? Do you want to tell that story again? Because it's
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, what happened is that me and a friend of mine who lived like 3 houses away, we both kind of started playing guitar around the same time, but we wanted to like play songs together. So I was the guy who decided, well, I guess I'll play bass and let you get the glory with guitar, And so and for some reason I kind of picked it up probably almost easier than I would have guitar, just because, playing single noted stuff and things like that. And then right away, not too long after I started playing bass, I was listening to all kinds of music, and I stumbled across things like Chili Peppers and Primus and things that were very bass driven and bass heavy kind of music, and that led me into my dad had this one VHS, I think, of Primus playing live, and I just sat there and watched it on repeat over and over, and just like micro-analyzed every like technique and different things that he was doing with his hands and stuff like that. And it kind of, I wouldn't say that I was necessarily anywhere close to being able to emulate it, but it gave me some kind of influence and kind of a structure and something to work with. And same thing with watching live videos of like Flea and and then there's tons of other bass players that influenced me growing up. Cliff Burton was a big one when I was a kid, and that's kind of what started my whole bass career.
Nice, man.
Very cool. That's some pretty big influences, Les Claypool and.
Yeah, I mean, I guess for me at the time, I was a kid, you know, so like I was about going big with anything. I skateboarded at the time or whatever, so I just did whatever, and like I feel like at that point you just kind of want to immerse yourself in the most like complicated or crazy stuff that you can find at the time, and then let it kind of just sink in and you know, kind of build a foundation for music, you know.
Very cool.
When did you start writing songs of your own then?
Well, that was probably, well, I mean, you and I kind of started writing together when we were playing in the ska band in high school. But when it came to like vocally and lyrically kind of writing my own music and creating my own, like the whole songwriter thing or whatever, I was probably around 16 or 17, and it was when I first moved to Virginia. I didn't have a band to play with. I didn't have anybody to play with, and it was the first time that happened since I was, excuse me, like 12 or 13. So I just felt like, well, I guess I can't really play bass anymore because you can't really write songs. And I mean, you can, but you know, but I'm not, you know, Slayer. So I'm not. But so yeah, I just started picking up acoustic guitar and kind of strumming some chords and writing some lyrics behind it, and then that kind of paved the way for everything else. And it, you know, kind of made me who I am now.
So then you moved back from Virginia in like 2005, right?
Yeah.
And we started a band called Samadhi.
Yeah.
Which kind of evolved, you know, it was a 3-piece for a while, and then we added keyboard, we added another guitar, so it was like a 5-piece band.
Mm-hmm.
And
we went through our share of bass players and
and it landed on Jed.
Yeah.
Super solid.
Yeah, Jed's a man.
And I mean, really, like, we recorded a live album at 9th Street.
Yeah.
That is enjoyed by people, thankfully. You know?
Yeah, to this day. Alex was talking to me about that earlier.
Yeah.
He said that Andy Watkins was asking for his copy. He's like, dude, I've given you 5 copies of this CD already. Just stop losing them.
Nice. So yeah, that's like some of the only documentation of that.
Pretty much. I mean, there might be a couple of videos floating around on YouTube somewhere or something like MySpace, yeah. But yeah, we didn't really have too much. We did record one song with Vintage Dave. Remember that?
Where at?
I think we recorded it in Mike Flaherty's basement.
Oh, Adderall I Need?
Yeah, we did a version of that. It was like track by track on. I think he had some little. It was analog, I'm pretty sure, what we were using. I don't think it was like computers or anything. I think we did it on some kind of tape recording, like Tascam thing.
I was going to say Tascam,
yeah.
Dave has a project now that's like, have you checked out any of the music that he shared recently?
I checked out this one thing, and it was just like all over the place, like, I don't know, it was like progressive kind of arena sounding.
It's
and
epic.
Like, yeah, it was super
all
epic.
Instrumental.
Yeah.
I'm like proud of him.
He's a super talented dude. I mean, I don't know if you know, does he know?
I don't know. Vintage Power Source, this was like 2004, 2005, 2006, 7 maybe.
Yeah.
You know, when the Cancun shows were happening, they were like mostly Ottawa people.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm not familiar with that.
Okay.
But where does he live now, Dave?
Madison.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Awesome. But he's a super talented dude, and like he was kind of, when we were playing in Samadhi, he was kind of the, I'm not sure if he was the main songwriter or whatever for Vintage, but him and I just kind of really got along really well, just in the essence of like, you know, just talking shop over you know, songwriting and building these like, you know, chord structures and everything like that. And he would like, he actually influenced probably a couple of our songs too by me just watching the chord progressions that he wrote, and it was like, you know. Very cool. Awesome.
And pickups, I think you put some new humbuckers in that SG.
Yeah. Yeah, I did. I actually got one from him. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, it was it was like a Gibson humbucker, but it was actually a Fender that he took out of a Fender Tornado, and I threw it in the bridge of Gibson SG, and it kind of gave it a completely different tone. And that was around the same time I put a classic, it was like 68 or whatever in the neck, and it really kind of changed my tone. Playing in Samadhi, and
Yeah,
I
right.
liked it because it was beefy.
Yeah, and you had that crate voodoo head.
Oh
Crate
yeah,
blue
the blue voodoo that we got from Lenny.
Yeah, I forget how we got it. If we bought it off of him.
We did. We used our band money because I
That
mean,
sounds about right.
I mean, from playing pub shows and other small shows and stuff,
mean-
we pretty much just threw all our money into one band fund and used it to buy burritos and cables and stuff like that when we
Yeah, I
needed
mean,
them.
in some of those Cancun shows, there was like 100, 150 people, and if they're all paying $5 at the door, that's like a lot of money.
That's a decent amount of money for a
That
bunch
place
of
was
kids with
awesome.
no jobs, playing music.
I remember we threw a Cancun show. This was maybe like when Dan Matos was still in 007, and we like did it. It was like our first time throwing a show, and we didn't really realize that you were supposed to pay like all the bands that played. So we're just like, oh, we got all this money, awesome.
But split up.
And like, then it's like come to find out like, oh, these other musicians are pissed at us. Like,
Yeah.
oh, they're like, where's our
It's like,
cut?
yeah, you guys just made $500 and we're stuck here with
So
nothing.
Ian, do you want to tell the story of your new project, Luminous Being, how it came into fruition, where it's at, and like, what you guys are doing musically with your
Yeah.
songs and stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. When I first moved back to Virginia, I moved to Richmond, and I was living with a girl, and we kind of were seeing each other for a while, and she had a friend that she had already been kind of playing music with, and he would like come over with an acoustic guitar, and she would like sing songs and stuff like that. Well, he also played bass, and I played guitar and everything. So he came over and brought his bass over, and we just kind of jammed one day. And then after that, we kind of jammed since then. We still jam today, and that was probably almost 4 years ago. And it kind of started off doing some kind of like gypsy folk kind of music, and then a few months into playing together, I asked him, I was like, do you know anybody that plays drums? And he's like, yeah. He's like, I'm not really sure what he's doing, but I got this one friend that might want to come and jam with us. And I was like, all right. So I eventually moved into a different house, and I had like space that allowed for jamming as opposed to living in a tiny house. So
Whole band.
yeah, so we had a whole bedroom that we basically turned into our music room, and then the bass player had a drum set, so he just brought the drum set over. So when we wanted to, like, one of us could sit on drums and play bass or what, and stuff like that. And so we invited his friend out there, because they live in like the same like country area out in the outskirts of Richmond. And so we invited him over there, and we just kind of jammed, and like me and the drummer actually clicked really well. He's a talented dude. He's got all kinds of chops, and like he was just able to pick up what I was throwing down, to be cliche about it. But like he was able to just kind of hear the nuances of or like especially like the accents of the music, and like the kind of style that I was going at, and we kind of clicked on certain things like Latin style music and things like that. And so and then after that, we played for about a year or so, and I mean, we kind of just jammed. We weren't really in the idea of like creating a band or anything like that. We just kind of jammed, and we did write some songs, but it was mainly because I was already writing songs for myself. So we just kind of wrote, a couple jams just to have something structured to go over. And then after about 3 or 4 songs, we decided, well, I guess this is kind of a project. And I started hanging out with the drummer a little bit more, and he introduced me to our other buddy, Dan. And at that point, we were all just kind of hung out as friends. And I asked Dan, I was like, he played bass in a different band, and I asked him, I was like, you play guitar much? And he's like, you know, a little bit here and there. I was like, well, how would you feel about, you know, maybe sitting in playing, you know, some additional guitar with us? Because that lightens the load from my guitar playing and allows me to focus more on singing and stuff like that. So it kind of just opened up all kinds of doors because he likes to use more effects and stuff like that. I'm more kind of like a clean, dirty kind of guy, and every once in a while I use some delay and stuff. But he uses, you know, some more effects and stuff like that, and kind of just fills out a lot of like what would be dead space if he wasn't in our band. And it actually it's worked out great since, because I mean he's pretty much one of the best friends I've ever had with playing music and stuff like that, and we really vibe off each other too, and we kind of like pick up off each other's grooves and stuff like that. So and then, you know, that kind of solidified the 4-piece, and then at that point we're like, well, we need to choose a name. And we had a list of all kinds of names that we're going through, and then somehow we got into like, and this is something I guess most people probably wouldn't know about the name of our band, but we actually chose it from a Star Wars quote, because we had all these other names that we were trying to choose from, and we couldn't really pick on anything. And then it just like somehow the quote got brought up, and then we're like, that's it, that's the one. So we started calling ourselves Luminous Being, and we've been playing under that name since. And we've played for about 3 years, but we didn't really play many shows up until about this last November. And we started to play, you know, about a couple shows a month now, and, you know, starting to pick up from there.
Very cool. Very nice.
Which Star Wars episode?
Oh, it's from Empire, you know, the best one.
Right on.
No, it's actually a Yoda quote. It's when he's trying to convince Luke to pick up the ship out of the Dagobah swamp with you know, the Force.
Yeah.
And he was telling him that it was too big or something, and he says something about, you know, judge me by my size and all this other stuff. And then he's basically says, you know, luminous beings are we, not this crude matter. And that's kind of where it, you know, it all came from.
Star Wars metaphysics.
Yeah, the metaphysics of Star Wars. Yeah.
I've actually never watched a Star Wars.
You are crazy. That's crazy. I met somebody not too long. Actually, I was living with a girl, and she had never seen a Star Wars either, and apparently she won't. She like refuses to.
Flat out, just.
But I mean, hey, I refuse to watch Grease. So,
Yeah,
I mean, to each their own, I guess.
Yeah, true.
And I won't watch Footloose either.
Yeah, I mean musicals that are turned into TV movies or something.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I just it's weird, but being a musician, that I just really don't like very many musicals. And there's some I like.
Well,
but
I mean, it's this whole other thing, you know.
it's a different.
So.
It's a whole nother animal.
Yeah, exactly. Man. Exactly.
Sorry, I didn't mean to go off subject.
Oh no, that's great. It actually lightens the mood a little.
But yeah.
Yeah.
What songs are you gonna play tonight? Do you know?
Not really sure. I think I might just do a couple ones that are pretty easy. Just because I don't have the rest of the guys here to kind of back me up. But I'm thinking about one of the songs is called "Frequently Haunted," and then I might do another song called "Faust," which is kind of named after the famous like German
Philosopher.
well, no. Faust was written by multiple people, but it's a kind of a famous fable, a story.
Is it?
Yeah. And I'm sure you've seen the scenario used in multiple situations, but it's the whole idea of like selling your soul to the devil to get the thing that you want, you know. And that's kind of what the song
Like a
lyrics
Robert
are about.
Johnson kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of where that comes from. The whole Crossroads story kind of comes from the Faust story, and it's an old German tale.
Very cool.
So like I wrote the lyrics like kind of around that idea, and I was like, well, I might as well just call it, you know, call it that. So
what you're writing about.
Yeah,
Cool,
yeah.
cool, cool.
Very awesome.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm
man.
interested to hear.
We can get out of your way and
that's fine.
get you set up here. But yeah, man, super glad that you're down to come to the studio and chat with us.
Yeah,
and share some music.
I'm super excited that you guys, invited me out. I didn't
yeah.
really, I only came in here for a few days, so I didn't really expect to be doing anything like this while I was in town, but it's really cool. And she wore a veil across her face to mourn the sadness of his grave. No other man could take his place, not with her expectations. She learned to cope for a couple years. She took an oath to pursue her fear. She'd give her soul just to grace her ear one more time with his vocal inflection. But he won't. If she won't lose herself, but he won't. If she won't. She wore a veil across her face to mourn the sadness of his grave. No other man could take his place, not with her expectations. She learned to cope for a couple years. She took an oath to pursue her fear. She'd give her soul just to grace her ear one more time, one more time. But he won't if she won't. But he won't if she won't lose herself. But he won't if she won't. But he won't if she won't. She met a man who was dressed in black. He said he'd help to bring a lover back. Sign on the line and you will seal the pact to revoke your salvation. He said her soul's the only thing he need. He pricked her finger, she began to bleed. She wrote her name and she began to see what she thought was a hallucination. But he won't if she won't. But he won't if she won't lose herself. But he won't if she won't. But he won't if she won't, if she won't. Whoa, oh, whoa, oh. Whoa, oh, whoa. She wore a veil across her face. She wore a veil across her face. She wore a veil across her face. Whoa. She wore a veil across her face. But he won't if she won't. 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 All right, this next song is called "Frequently Haunted." I came to see a man about some plans to make a escape. I could not find him anywhere I looked, but I still waited. I need to find a way to break this cage. Freedom can't be found, I might declare that I'm insane. And we are awful to ourselves sometimes. Frequently haunted by these ghoulish lies, yeah. And I'm most prepared to be seduced. The smoke in the air, the smell of perfume. I can't explain these visions that get stuck inside my head. Shadow of the words I know I couldn't, should have said. I never felt a wound that couldn't heal and always bled. A cryptic message was encoded just to raise the dead. We are awful to ourselves sometimes. Frequently haunted by our own disguise. And I'm most prepared to be seduced. The smoke in the air,